Today I want to show you how to knit in seed stitch. Let's do this. To create a seed stitch pattern, all you need is a pair of knitting needles and some yarn. And of course, if they go together, that's a plus. Otherwise you get, I don't know, interesting patterns. I've already knit of this, that's why it's curly, but we can still use it. So first, of course, you need to cast on, and hopefully I have a video up also of how to cast on. And I'm going to show you this without a specific number of stitches, because it really doesn't matter. You can do this in any number of stitches you want. That's how simple this stitch is. I have a very long tail, but that's okay. This is just a test or a demonstration. So to set up our row, or the first row, go into the first stitch and knit that. Then just put my end here on the front. So here we are. The next stitch you are going to purl. And then you're going to repeat that all the way down. So knit and purl. And knit. And purl. And knit. And purl. This is why it doesn't matter how many stitches you have. Technically you use 2, but really you can stop at any point. And knit and purl. And knit. And purl. Now, you remember what you did the last time. So the very last stitch I purled. When I then go to the other side, what I want to do is I want to purl the first stitch. Then I want to knit the next one. And then I want to repeat that all the way down. Had I ended on a knit, I would have knit the first stitch. So, knit and purl. And knit and purl. All the way down. So now I ended up on a knit. So when I turn the work, what I want to do is to knit the first stitch. And that's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is that every time you have a knit stitch, you will purl that. Every time you're looking at a purl stitch, you will knit that. And it can be a little bit challenging. That's why I like the what am I turning with method. But here we are. What you can do to be super sure of what the next stitch is that you can pull the fabric down a little bit. So when you pull on it, the knit stitches sort of stretch and the purl stitches stay having a little bit of a wrap around it. So I can see here that my first stitch is a purl, and the next one, even though it might get twisted in the seed stitch, it usually does, but when you pull it, it becomes clear that it's a knit stitch. So the next one here, I am going to knit because I am looking at purl. then I am going to purl the next one because I'm looking at a knit stitch. So we are always alternating between knits and purls, which gives us the texture that we want. So I'm ending up on a purl stitch, which means that I'm going to purl the first one here, which I can also see because I am looking at a knit stitch. I'm just going to show you this last row, and then I want to show you things where I have, or projects where I have used the seed stitch to just make it a little bit neater, or a project. And then I want to show you a shirt that I bought which actually has seed stitch on it. So here we are. That is what that looks like. Okay, so here I have two hats. They're the pattern called for garter stitch. So you'll see here, as you knit every row, you get a pattern where you can only see all of your purls. So it's a bit funny, I think. All of these are just knitted. I have not done a single row of purling in this one. It's all knit, and all I can see is the purl stitches. So then I wanted to add a little bit more texture, and I wanted to change it up a little bit. This is knit flat and then it's sewn together. It's a very sort of traditional, I think, or at least I see them everywhere in Scandinavia. So it's called a devil hat. I have a couple of crocheted options on my channel, but these are knit, and I have a pattern for them, but it's in Danish, so I will see whether or not I can perhaps translate it and put it up. I will try to contact the owner of the pattern. But what I did was I switched the two sections here, where first you increase and then you decrease, and it becomes this thing. This is the forehead. And instead of doing that in garter stitch, I just did that in seed stitch, and I think that looks very, very nice. So it just has the horizontal lines here, and it has the diagonal lines here instead. So that was one place where I thought I would use that. It's as stretchy as the garter stitch. And I had this shirt here. So this is a shirt that I bought, and it has a very nice, I think, pattern to it. It has some cables and other things up here, but down here it is in seed stitch, but it's a different kind of seed stitch because it's double. So instead of turning every row and doing the opposite, you turn every other row. So you do one row, knit one, purl one, then you do the row back where you knit your knits and you purl your purls, and then you go back on the third row, and then you switch it, so you get the bumps. And I will show you that now. I have no idea what it's actually called. I'm just calling it double seed stitch because it's basically a seed stitch but with double the amount of stitches. So I don't know if it has a name and you know it, please write it to me. I will start using the correct terminology, but for now I've just named it, and yeah. So where did I put my... Here we are. So in order to be able to compare, I think I will just do a couple of rows of stockinettes so that you can see the difference. Okay, so now I've just done a few rows of stockinettes so that we can see the difference between the seed stitch down here and then what is going to be the double seed stitch up here. So we start the same way as we just did with the normal seed stitch. So I'm going to knit one, purl one, for the entire row. Knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, and purl. And I'm done with the right side of the fabric. When I turn to the back of the fabric, I know that I am going to knit the knits and purl the purls. So I'm starting with a knit stitch. So I want to knit that. Then I'm seeing a purl, so I'm purling that. And then a knit, and then a purl. And we're going to continue that all the way down. So this is the opposite of what we did before. Before we would have purled our knits and knitted our purls. Knit our purls. So here we go. That was the wrong side, so now I have a knit on top of a knit and a purl on top of a purl. I basically have a rib pattern now. Or rib, not with a P, but with a B, a rib pattern. So when I get to the front, now I want to switch them. So every time I have a knit here, I want to purl it. And every time I have a purl, I want to knit it. And it is much easier in the double to see when you have a knit and when you have a purl, because they aren't deformed as much from the rest of the fabric, sort of pulling on the knits. So now I have switched. So now I have 2 knits, and on top of that, oh, can you see that? I have 2 knits, and on top of the knit I have a purl, and I have 2 purls, and on top of that I have a knit stitch. So when I turn to the back, I will then, again, when I am seeing a purl stitch, I will purl it, and when I'm seeing a knit stitch, I will knit it. And that's basically it. So it's a bit more complicated. Takes a bit more. You need to know whether or not you're on the front or on the back. But other than that, it's quite simple. Now you can see the difference between the single and the double. The single is tighter, and I think it looks very nice as a sort of simple pattern. And this up here is a little bit coarser, and yeah, I've seen this one used in, if you have like a diagram with a pattern on it, and then you sort of, every time you have the inside of the figure, you just do seed stitch, or perhaps just purl those and knit the others. I've seen that done with the double for grapes. It kind of looks like hanging grapes when you just knit it. And the other one down here, well, seed stitch I think is a very nice word for it. It does look like seeds, and it also kind of looks like, I don't know, Santa's beard or something. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next Friday.